So we were in Palawan FX. They were still young, so playing cards and things like that. And we would stop at every town. And my father would look at locations, would talk to tenants, would down payments so that we would get a branch. So we said, we thought it was vacation. It was, just looking for branches. So that was our vacation, even in Coron. So like now. So Carlo would try to look for a place where there's no Palawan Pontiac branch, because if there's a Palawan Pontiac branch, then he had no choice. The vacation will include visits to the branches. So that's how it was, and even when I was in Deutsch and Sudiques, for certain events in the company, when we are together, we talk about it, or my nanay would call me, this is what happened. So yes, we were exposed that way, even if when we were not in the business.
Yeah, I'd like to agree, because well, actually, growing up, we weren't really like forced to stay in a branch and like talk to the customers or do the cashiering yourself. So during semestral breaks and summer breaks, we did that for minimum allowance. Yeah, and then during meals and informal discussions with the parents, they were really very honest. So they didn't mask things. They didn't sugarcoat what was happening. So we knew how the business was running, and well, we were just listening. And there was some point that I think I was in college, and Tati was saying that we've grown to like 300 branches, and we're still putting up more. And friends would ask me, "Where are your kids? What are they doing?" So things like that. But it's not as if he was really mad at us not deciding to join in right away. So he was just like that. He was very natural. Nanay too was also very realistic in terms of the state of our business. So yeah, there was truth in all situations, whether we're successful or not.
When you joined, was the organization professionalized, or you brought in all the systems in place? Because you came from professional organizations, right?
Well, I'd like to think that I joined a little later than Corina. I'd like to think that yes, it's professionally run already in a way that there's an organization structure, there are departments, there are department heads. Because at that time, when we were still a small company, all the decisions would really be centralized to our father and to our mother. So our father on the growing the business, marketing, getting sales, our mother would be the finance, sourcing the funds for the expansion and the business. So me, when I came in, there are departments already. But I guess, of course, there's always room for improvement in terms of professionalizing a family corporation. Right now, what we're doing, because I guess the siblings, when we discuss it, we know it will be difficult for some, let's say if you hire an executive from a bank or from another company, it's difficult, that the transition from a corporate into a family organization will be difficult for a person. We want the company to be ready for that. Right now, what we do, we have a board of advisors to help us. We have consultants, we have legal consultants, financial consultants, HR consultants, and then the board of, we have a family consultant, former professor of AIM also, for the family dynamics and the relationship. So we're working on it towards the full professionally run company, but I'd like to think we're professionally run.
Yeah, just to add in that, the professionalization is, I guess, a constant process. What we lack now, I would think, is some talent or some decision makers, because right now all the major decisions, all the strategic decisions are made by the family. So we're now we're having consultant, but it's a constant process of professionalizing the business. Of course, the end goal is maybe not this generation, but the next, that the ownership and the management would be different, would be separate. So that's the goal anyway.
So the first who came in was Corina, 2009, and then followed by Carlo and then William, 2000. And then for the last two, it was easier to join because they were already in. Was it that way?
Well, at that time, as I mentioned, I worked in a province in a company as an engineer. Actually, I was also convinced to just join the business rather than like traveling a lot, because on rest days I would go home to or drive home to Manila from Clark in Pampanga. But there are other challenges like what Bobby has mentioned earlier. The company was already big when I entered and then eventually him. It was like it wasn't like this is your job, then this is your job description. It's like you are the one who is going to look or to find for your job to what best fits your personality or your what you want to do. It's like go in and then look for a problem or a concern that you want to solve, and then do it yourself, and then just report to the family, report to our father. So it's not very easy for me. If the question is, was it easy? It's not easy.
Yes, for the most of us, when we came into the company, we were given a specific project, so that I guess I was given a specific project, which was easier because instead of looking, looking at overall picture right away, you're given a specific project, a task that, and then from there, you get to see the whole company, how it's running, how it's being run. So then later on, based on your, personality and the skills that you have, you get to be assigned to a specific role.
Well, to answer your question, the circumstances when I joined, it's a pretty easy decision, given that all of my siblings are already in the company. But as Carter mentioned, for my training, I was assigned to a project to handle expansion in a certain region in South Luzon. So it was a fun experience, and I learned a lot from handling that. But afterwards, after that project, the scale, the magnitude of the amount of work that is required to you or expected from you, it really is overwhelming. But up to now, it's still overwhelming because we're growing a business, and actually there are only 5 of us siblings. The way we're structured right now, a department reports to 1 of us. 2, 3, or 4 in the case of Carlo, many departments reporting to him. So and that task gets overwhelming. I'm confident that there's collaboration and the constant communication. And right now that we have consultants, the consultants sometimes you go to them not to ask about the business per se, but just you may vent out, you may share, or you may just ask someone. In my case, I told this to Lisa, our direct boss was our parents, and my office mates were my siblings. So we really don't have friends or genuine peers. But I do have friends and some older friends that I look up to. So sometimes I ask them about business questions, personal questions, and the similar friends that are the friends that belong to also a family business. So that helps.
Well, I guess because it was touched by Carlo, in terms of the circumstances when each of us joined. So Corina can share, but according to her, because she was the first, diba? So she was the first. So it's like you do anything. Okay, so she came home to Palawan. I guess just to give you the context, because we all grew up in Palawan up until high school, except for Carlo, because Carlo studied high school in Manila, because he passed Philippine Science. So all of us, we were in Palawan until high school, and only came to Manila for college. So when Corina went back to Palawan, she was the first to join. So it's like maybe she felt everything was put on her lap. Small things of each issue. So when Carlo, luckily enough, when he joined in 2010, that was the time when we were starting to get partners for domestic remittance. At that time, I was working for a multinational, but my father's like that. So I was working for a multinational, but in the presentation of Palawan Express to our potential partners, I was involved also. It was Carlo and I who made the presentation. Anyway, so that was the circumstance. So Carlo had sort of a project that's sort of detached because it's not the pawn shop side of the business, it's the remittance side of the business. So it's like he had a project that was integral to the operations of the whole company. When I joined, it's similar to Lisa's also. There's no job description. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and sometimes at times I complained because I was just asked. Yeah, I wanted to do something which I thought was more significant, but at the time I was writing letters, replying to BSP, replying to partners, and so I'm just here to write letters, and then Tito Nodo would say, oh, but that's important. So things like that. And then eventually, in one of our family meetings, my father sort of, it's just direction. He said, Lilian, what I want you to do, I want you to fix our corporation. You talk to lawyers, talk to different lawyers, what do we need to do, how do we organize the corporation? So that's when we started. So we can talk about it later in terms of how the companies are grouped. Now there's a holding company. So I tapped my friends, my resources. Attorney Cherry helped me. One of our friends who's also a lawyer helped me. I consulted a lot of people to help us. So that was the situation. And then, like what Carlo mentioned, and then you find your role. Because at that time when it was told to me, 9 years in the corporate world, and when you enter a company, you said, you look for what you want to do. It's difficult. How do you look for what you want to do? And then Carlo would say, oh, you will eventually find your roles. What's my role? So it's really, for me, because, I came from structure, I came from control, from structure, from 8 to 8 jobs. So it's difficult. So that it was a process for me personally. And then Lisa Lu and Bobby shared already. At the time when they joined, it was bigger. There's a little more structure than before. And actually when we were talking about our roles, the three of us, we kind of know what our roles in the company are. And then Lisa, Lu, and Bobby, they're still trying to search what really, although they have specific roles right now, I think they're still exploring.
Some of your audience here are here because they're curious about the business itself. Yeah. Okay. So how you've grown so fast, you're one of the largest low-taxing pawn shop and remittance office. Somebody want to share about its growth?
Right, I guess brief. It was discussed earlier. It was mentioned earlier that the company started in 1985, but it was very slow growth, maybe until 2000. But as we pointed out, we were directly involved in the business during those years. But actually, I guess the accelerated growth started in 2005, 2006, when we were opening close to 100 branches a year. It was very aggressive expansion. It was also very aggressive marketing. Because as you pointed out earlier, compared to some of our competitors, we came into the industry quite late. So we had to position ourselves as, I guess, a cheaper alternative, an easier alternative, meaning easier to transact. So, for example, for remittance, we really positioned ourselves like at half the price of the others. And for the longest time, it was like that. We were not really, not our competitors were not, I guess, didn't mind us. They viewed us as just a small player. So for like maybe 5-6 years, it was like that. And slowly but surely, with our aggressive marketing, our aggressive pricing, and aggressive expansion, and plus, of course, offering services that we found out that the customers are looking for. For example, in the pawn shop side of the business, the industry practice at that time was some pawn shops were charging 5% per month, some pawn shops were charging 4% per month. We came in at 3%. And then later on, when my father talking to our officers, talking to our customers, he found out that some of the customers actually need the loans for just a week or 10 days. And at that time, the practice was that if you loan, it's 3% or 4% or 5%, even if you use the loan for a few days, you're charged the whole month. So what he did, for example, was he split the month into 3 parts. So if you're just gonna loan for like 5, 10, 20,000 for a week, instead of you getting charged 3%, you only get charged 1%, which was very useful for the small businesses that need a capital of 10,000. And then after a week, after the collections, the businessman will pay up the loan. So now from a 10,000 peso loan, for example, which was charged previously at 300 because it's 3%, now he only pays 100. So that's what made us grow on the pawn shop side of the business, offering different packages to different customers. And as I mentioned, on the remittance side, apart from being the cheapest one at that time anyway, and we concentrated on being fast, and we also added some I guess, added services or added features like text notifications. We were the first one to launch that. So yeah,
they're mentoring you in a way. My father is mentoring me, my mother is mentoring me, and all of my siblings are mentoring me. And right now, I can say that I haven't really found my niche in the company, but I'm in charge of what I want or what I enjoy. That is, marketing and the digital side of the business, things that they don't understand. So it's an advantage. But and it helps that I have a wife and I have a daughter. It helps, because at least I have my own, I have my own family, and when I go home, when I see them, it helps you, blooming up and everything. So I guess I answered your question already.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay.
So, thank you, speakers. To formally end the 4th Breakfast Forum, I call on Carolina Birla, Research Manager, to give us the closing remarks.
Rael. Thank you, the Castro family. It was very nice talk. You gave us very valuable insights on family business management. Thank you, Professor Jeannie Santiago, for the moderation. It was truly inspiring to see these five family members strongly embodied and united by business. They are a true example that mixing family and business is possible, and stronger their bonds, stronger their business. Families are institutions formed by core values, and we are able to testify here that family values helps to build their business identity. These values also help stabilizing the structure and the dynamics of both the family and their business. Here today, we address the challenge of family business in two main topics. One of them is communication and legacy. We have as best practices that family need to have communication and business communication also. One of the other best practices shared here is the previous generation mentoring the new generation taking over the business. That is very important and brings value added to the family identity. Another topic that we have addressed today is professionalization. It's important to professionalize the family business and get help from non-family members, such as consultants, or even outsource some services or have partners as the Palawan have. And also talk with other friends that have family business to share their experiences. Incorporate experiences and skills from family members from their background, previous background, and other family, other business, private works. So finally, I want to wish all the success personally and in the business to the Castro family and to Palawan shop. And I want also to give a special thank to Dr. Jeannie Santiago and the Birla team. We need you to fill in the evaluation forms that we have handled in order to get the impact of this breakfast forum. So I will ask you to fill in, please. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolina. Okay. Again, to our speakers, thank you for sharing your experiences, your best practices. We have learned a lot from you, and hence, we would like to give our token of appreciation. Please join us on stage, Carolina and Prof. Jeannie, to award the token. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming. If you want to subscribe in the Birla newsletter, Castro, just email Patty General at birla@aim.edu. We are also present in our social media.
Choose my battles. The ones that I really like, I'll reserve all my energy for that. And usually I get my way because I let go of the other stuff that I deem okay. I can compromise on these ones. That's what I always tell them, to choose your battles also. But slowly but surely, actually, credit to our father, it's been trying to let go of some of the decision making, especially for the day-to-day stuff. I'm pretty much not really in control, but independent. So yeah, that one I really like. But we still do consult quite often with our father, with our mother. And as I mentioned earlier, we regularly meet, so we discuss this. And on certain things, we actually vote. Just like recently, there was a decision that needs to be done. and our father gathered us, and we voted. So yeah, that was good.
One vote per person, or not vote. You got one vote out.
Well, because as a youngest, I've told this to my parents. I naturally have the biggest generation gap between my parents. So when it comes to the things that I'm suggesting in the company, especially the tech side, and admittedly, my parents are not too familiar with those. So they let me decide about that. And in terms of consultation, also I ask my siblings what's good for the company, and we just inform them. So this is what we decided, especially with the digital side. And you have to, I guess this also applies to some of the part of the family corporations. When you're really strong, when you feel really strong about something, and the founder initially doesn't agree with you, so just let it by and make it as if it came to him. Structure it and say came from him. Like, and then you just agree. Actually, that's a pretty good idea. How haven't I thought of that before?
Yes, I'm excellent limited in Alumnos. What I appreciate, Palawan, I'm one of your Suki. I'm even attracted to your, I'm a Suki of Palawan. That's why I'm here. I think what I've learned today is your father is not just a visionary leader, but also a cool brainer. Even the structure of the family. I think Bobet mentioned about the vision of your father, the big why of your business. That's why you're taking care of your employees and also listen to us, the customers. So my question, I want to know the big why of your father, the vision, the purpose. Because I believe we live on purpose. We decide based on purpose. So I want to know because your employees are inspired by your father. They're highly motivated. They're dedicated. And I think also you were attracted about the vision of your father. So we want to know.
Okay, I guess it's it's deep, it's deep. But what was not yet discussed is the background of our parents. So they were activists during the martial law time. So they fought the Marcos government. After one semester in UP, they dropped out of college to go full-time activist. And so, my father's connection to and mother, connection to the masses, talking to people, literally living with them, living in the slums, living in the provinces. So it's that deep. So that's why I guess in terms of experience, understanding, an appreciation of. I just read this. If they live when they were really young. Their belief was if you are not part of the solution, then you are part of the problem. So they were really that. They were full-time activists. And I guess that's the core of his being. The purpose, of course, it varies. It evolved. It evolved. It started, so after martial law, so it's our grandfather was originally from Palawan. So I was a baby, then they decided to move to Palawan, started different kinds of businesses. My father finished his degree in Palawan already. So it started, of course, with providing for the family, for a growing family. How do you feed the family? And then, of course, that nationalism, that activism, there's an element. Whereas if you consolidate, like it's one big group, then you can because you pull the resources. And I guess there was a question in the submitted questions where are there plans of splitting the company. No, there are no plans. As I earlier, I mentioned that my father asked me to help organize the corporation. So the ownership of the corporation right now is the ownership that was agreed already. Because when I consulted my friend who was in corporate structure, he said, you should think of the future. What is the goal? What is the ownership structure that you want for the company? So there was no discussion of you having geographic ownership or management, because you see it's one big group. Although we have operating companies, but there's a holding company, and the ownership of the holding company is already in accordance with the ownership structure that we agreed upon, that my father also suggested. Because, like, for example, he was suggesting, this is the percentage of ownership that I wanted to be kept with the couple, so my father and mother. And then my friend said, but it doesn't make sense. There should be sort of equal power. So right now, the ownership is in that structure already. And so, to answer your question, in terms of how do you really expand, it will be very difficult if it's one branch per sibling, and then each of the siblings will have different visions, different strategies. You cannot pool your resources. How do you actually access credit with banks if it's different companies? So right now, the way we're structured, each of us has a specific role in the whole of the company, but it's one big group. And then of course, eventually, like the comment for us right now, we cannot function as a full board because we're all ingrained into the operation side of the business. So that's what we're trying to work on in the next couple of years. So I guess your question is, how do you expand it? It will be difficult. If it's organized like that, because we have partners on the domestic remittance side. We have various business partners, and those that are organized like that, they've grown big before, and now they're slowly shrinking in terms of the count by the number of branches, and probably, of course, the size of the assets.
In terms of business partners, you mean like franchising?
Well, the way it's sort of agents. So Palawan Pawn Shop is a company owned with 2,600 branches. And then we have partners or agents. So these are mostly other pawn shops, other businesses, but they carry Palawan Express Pera Padala. So they can receive and pay out Palawan Express Pera Padala. That's another, using our system, so that's another 2,000 locations of partners. So that's our network of Palawan Express Pera Padala. And on top of that, we have a special partnership with LBC, for example. LBC is a competitor but also a partner. LBC pays out Palawan Express Pera Padala, and we pay out LBC. And then another with 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven accepts Palawan Express, but they don't pay out. We pay out Palawan Express. So part of the 2,000 locations are SM and Robinsons. So we're partners with them. It's really having that reach. So that's what I call in terms of the business partners. It will be very difficult if it's structured that way.
Just one more question before we wrap up.
Hi, I'm Gina Simento. So my question is specific for Bobby. How is it like being the youngest? I mean, how does it affect your voice in the company, making decisions, especially since you said you're under the shadow of your older siblings?
Well, thank you for that question. Because it will be my pride that there's one guest here that directed the question to me. As I mentioned earlier, there's really a family dynamics, and it's also applied to the business. And especially when I was starting, you get overruled a lot. When I say something, I have to say it, I think, 10 times, as opposed to having Carlo just mention it once. And that's reality. That's the truth. And sometimes it frustrates you, but it can also inspire you to prove your worth first. Because of course all of them have so much more experience than I have, being the youngest. With everything, they have more experience, and it's a hard pill to.
Hi, how are you? Marcus D, guest of Carolina. A little bit about myself. I came back about 4 years ago. I was born here, but I lived and studied in the US and China. I'm here to run businesses. So I guess this is a family business forum, so I thought an important question, which I'm actually encountering right now because I'm running two businesses, is how to build organizations here in the Philippines for growth. I've run companies in the US and China, very, very different environment. I'm still learning the environment here, and since you are also a family business and you saw it built from Palawan to something this large right now, I was wondering if you could share how you, from your experiences, how you were able to build the organization, what to bring in-house, and which roles to give to family. Now, I understand it's all personality driven. I've got an MBA from UCLA. You give the roles to your children, and I get that because this is a family business. But there are some functions that you can effectively outsource, and sometimes it's actually better to outsource. So that's what I wanted to know. For instance, a family role that you would do is, I call it the cash machine jockey model. Basically, when I come back here, I look at businesses and small businesses, and I know whose family, because I always look for the cash register, and the person behind the cash register is always family. So if you look at the country here, it doesn't matter, biggest business around here, you still have a cash register jockey. They're just called the CFO. But so there are some functions that are for family, like the cash register function. But I wanted you guys to tell me, from your experiences, what do you think are functions that you could actually outsource and get people outside the family involved in?
Maybe I'll start with the first question. How do you actually start an organization, a company in the country? So that's, I guess, that came way before us. So we grew up with so it was actually our father. Right now, my father's has been writing his experiences. So right now, I think upon reflection, he said that not knowing that he had no prior experience. So it was really more of talking to customers, talking to the employees, the associates, as we call them, and then offering them really the best products that can be offered in the market. And then what's really unique, I guess, about Palawan Pawnshop is really the culture of the people. Carl would often joke about it, that it's a cult. It's a cult. It's almost like the older ones, especially, they will risk their lives, sort of like that, because that kind of marketing, when we started, going house to house, asking them, do you have pawns elsewhere, and we offer really the best terms and rates, and so it's a combination of having that structure, and then the people who really work for you I remember there was a time my father was saying in our managers meeting, he was saying, if you think this will be your career, I guess for many Filipinos, right, their source of living, the one that will feed their families, that will provide for their children, then give it your all. And almost all of our managers are, I guess, trained under him. So that's how they work. It's a 24/7 job. Even if when we started, even during weekends, even when they're asleep, their husbands would complain because the phone would ring. There's an issue somewhere. Of course, now it's different. We need to adapt because they're all with families already. So there's probably no exact science. It's really what the market wants, what the market dictates. Such that there was a question there in terms of pricing, who gives the price? It's really the market. We went through a price war with our competitors about 4 years ago, where we were dropping prices almost every week up until it stabilized in the Visayas and in Mindanao. So that part of the issue. And I guess the second, in terms of outsourcing, Carl and Bobby can share. But we learned about outsourcing, I guess, from where I said, on a management perspective, you study cases, there are concepts, you outsource what you can outsource, it's more efficient for you. It's like, for us, it's yes and no. You also, right now, what we started sort of outsourcing are the systems, the accounting system, the HR system, the non-core systems, what else, the accounting, HR, and the IT development, some part of that. But I guess what separated us from others also is that my father probably is not a fan of outsourcing. He'd like to do everything ourselves. So therefore, we have construction teams constructing the branches for us. Whereas others would outsource this, get contractors. It's probably less headache. So now we have construction people with a little headache because of it's a different kind of industry. But it helped in the aggressive expansion. So you can add more on the outsourcing, I guess. But I guess from that point, we at this stage we try to outsource that's what Corina called the non-core. But right now, at this stage, we print our own signages right now because it's faster.
I guess just to add on the first part of the question, like the building the organization, she mentioned it already, but in Palawan Express, the unique thing is, like as she said, it's almost a cult-like following. Our father was able to build an organization of people who are really very dedicated, very committed. And actually all of us, when we joined, it was quite shocking. Like, how come our people are so into this thing that, you'll feel ashamed that how come you see our people more motivated than us. So actually, I guess it's a wake-up call, like make you work harder, make you try harder, because it's really amazing. And how it happen is, our father was not only a boss, but really spent a lot of time with our people. So up now, it's our practice. For example, for myself, when I get invited to a children's party, one of the daughters or sons of our employee has a birthday, I make it a point that I go and I guess bond with them, share some personal connection, because it really pays off and you really get to appreciate and inspire you as well. Seeing our people buy houses, some of them have cars already, and you'll hear the stories on how one employee was able to send 5 of her siblings to college because of her work. So yeah, you develop a connection on a personal level, and when that happens, you really see that they really go above and beyond. the call of duty?
Okay, for building the organization part, sorry, Bobby, to again to cut you. Yeah, for the organization building, yeah, we have a lot of HR practices that we are very, I think, in terms of the industry, very unique. And we don't just look at the customers, the external ones, as to what their needs are, what motivates them. We also look into the employees' needs and motivational needs. So, well, some HR practices that we feel keep them motivated or keep them doing what they're doing is that we give them part of the revenues they get at the end of the day, some pesos from there, some incentives. When we hire from different provinces in the Philippines, we house them in staff houses. We call them staff houses. We give them home travel allowance to spend time also with their families. Through the years, we've been working 6 days a week, but now that millennials are joining our business and some of the senior ones are also having their families, we give them 2 more rest days a month. That entailed us to hire like 400 people all at once just to serve that. So I think those practices will continue to evolve and will continue to keep them motivated and do their job. Because, well, I can really attest that everywhere you go in the Philippines where we operate, our people are really our treasurers, and we call them like our gold mine in the organization. So it's good that in an organization we take care of people.
Yeah, just to add, I think it's a Filipino culture. Even if you try to be as structured as possible, you cannot change the fact that people want to have like a more personal relationship with their boss. So, as they mentioned, my father and mother, or our parents, really tried to visit branches, especially when we were smaller. They visited branches. They shook hands with the branch personnel. They talk about they remember names. They remember where you came from, what happened to your family, what happened to your life in general. So up until now, we try, especially the boys, they try to go on, we call it branch visits. So you spend like 2-3 days in a province, and then you visit as many as branches in a day as possible with your of course your area managers, and then you talk to them. We bring chocolates or candies, and then you say, oh, how's your day? What is your name? And then we take a picture. Kuya said really that it's like it gives them what do you call it? Yeah, renewed energy, and then they feel like they're also important. We talk to them. We ask them, what do you think you can improve in this branch? And then we list them down, and then talk to the management. So try to do or to solve the problem.
I agree. And but perhaps I'll just talk more about outsourcing, because it focuses on the organization, and I agree. And as my eldest sister mentioned, our father really is not a fan of this outsourcing. But in the last 2-3 years, we really introduced organizations that can help us. For my part, especially with the fast changing landscape, the digital world, digital marketing, and e-commerce. So we're not experts when it comes to that space. So we do have partners that help us, communicate better. Because our network is nationwide, but of course, the reach within the online presence. As I've mentioned, we're not experts on that. So we do have advisors and outsourced companies that help us do those types of things. And yes, I think more on the tech part, the digital part. Those are the spaces that we do have partners.
And lastly, I think for us, we know our strengths, and then we know also what areas we need help or to improve. So I think you just have to know which ones you can really do, and then we usually sit down and then talk what are the things that we cannot really do, or if we wait for our, for example, IT team to develop this kind of system, it would take few months or even a year. So we decide that, okay, this one you have to outsource, and then try to look for example, Bobin, he has a lot of peers back in college who can really help in IT development. So he tries to reach out to them.
In terms of the executive committee, are you all family or are you not family?
Well, the board is currently all family, but we're trying to amend the articles of incorporation to include independent directors. The executive committee is not all family. There are, the senior and those with potential more, the managers, department heads are part of the executive committee.
Who is the highest non-family member in terms of rank? Position?
Well, the pioneer employee is probably still with us.
And he's old.
She's the head of operations, so under Carmen.
So still reporting to Carmen.
Still reporting.
Any? Yes, getting out and the after that. Female president.
Could you please comment on professional development? Have you been able to, on your own, go out, it helps, I guess, get some fresh ideas on your own professional development, and then has that been able
Personal.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, yes. It's prior to joining the company, I took up MBA here at AIM. Corina is a graduate of Masters in Entrepreneurship with Ateneo. Recently is completing her MBA in La Salle. And then I guess Carla has plans to take up strategic management courses, and Bobby as well. So right now, I guess what we do, so we have the consultants, board advisors, and then we have mentoring sessions, and we also attend certain corporate governance seminars. Actually, the four of them attended one seminar here at AIM as well. So yes, in terms of going out there and what's available for us, we really try to attend also.
Morning. My name is JD, second gen. The theme of the forum is bringing family into the business. Did any of you have veto rights in accepting any sibling into the corporation, or were you consulted by your parents? Will we allow Bobby to work with the company? No offense to the youngest. So how did you bring in family members into the company? Was it a family decision? Was it a sibling decision? Was it a board decision? And related to making decisions, do you as siblings, do you as second generation, get to make your decisions, major decisions, on your own? Or is it, as Bobit says, we're just following the parents? Or is it what Ate says? Or is it what Kuya says? So the dynamic of making operational decisions in a family business where it's siblings is interesting to me. It's also interesting to me how you bring in or decide to kick out a sibling.
Okay, I'll answer the first part of the question, bringing in the siblings. I think Carl would the decision making. Bringing in, well, of course, all of us would say that we weren't really forced, but of course, I think my father had a plan. You know, at the back of his mind, he really wanted us to join. I think more so for me because when I look back at how I built my career, at certain points, as I mentioned earlier, he was really injecting ideas on what I needed to do. So I had this plan of really at the back of my mind showing. But bringing veto power, I think it doesn't apply to us right now. Probably for our children, because there was really no, I guess, everyone's welcome. So there's, luckily we're all very, I guess, smart. So luckily we're all qualified. There's no, I guess, for some families if there's a black sheep, at least up to this point, there's no black sheep in the family. So there's no, there was no, I guess, the veto power in terms of not accepting a sibling into the business. It was actually, I think, for example, for Carlo, we were surprised that he said he wanted to join. Because he was we thought he was the least likely to join, plus also because high school, he was already in Manila. So we thought, we were really surprised with Carlo. And then the younger ones, we thought, engineering careers going into pawn shop. So, but how were we brought in? I think it's the combination of what we've spoken about this morning. Even when we weren't in the business for breakfast, lunch, dinner, even when I was still in Manila, so there was a time when there was a robbery case, and then my mother would call me and say, Lillian, this is what happened. So we are aware of what's happening, and then we know our loans, we know the payables and stuff. So even while we were sort of allowed to pursue our own careers, there's always that, I guess that maybe sparking the interest. So maybe my father had that also. Of course, now it's a reflection, but at that time he was always trying to involve us in some sort of way. Because family vacations would be visiting branches. So, that's your part of indoctrination also. So, it's, because we were laughing at it, when we were talking about family vacations, really were, and I guess it's the same. That story of a family looking for branch locations, one of our biggest competitors, I spoke to the I guess the second gen also, and he told me the same story. When they were young, they went on the way to Baguio, his father was looking for branches. So I guess that, kept us interested. And the people, because when we visit branches, and then an employee would invite us to have dinner at their house, we go, we join, we eat with them, we know their families. So that part, and it is Carlo, on the decision making, we do, yeah. Just follow Carlo.
I'll try to answer the decision making because it's not really that easy in any family business. Since our father and mother, they're both very active in the business still. So from time to time, our father especially will exercise veto power. So what I've learned in my time,
because that's what the market wanted. Starting text notification to the remittance sender and receiver, because the customer would feel that, okay, oh, my remittance was sent. It's a validation of the service. Things like that. That's what really he's good at. So it's really people. And because if you see him, it's really very energetic. So I guess that's a big one. The vision. More than the vision of becoming the leading pawn shop and money remittance service company in the country, it's really, of course, the vision of nationalism serving the people. Because even, for example, Yolanda, after late, we were the first ones who started operation. Even our employees would go to certain locations just to get savings to be able to transact the money. So it's service, and that's just scratching the surface of how they are. I guess it's it's really that one sense of nationalism.
Okay, lastly, one of the things that we admire of our father and mother is that they always tell us not to fool the customers, meaning you try to educate the customer. So even if a customer doesn't understand what you've written in for example, the receipt, you have to explain that this is the one that you're paying for, this is the percentage of what we're getting from you. So if I think you're honest on your transactions, then the loyalty of the customers will follow.
Good morning, Jimmy and the 5 kids. I'm a senior citizen, so I call you kids. And my question leads to that. It's nice that you're second generation, but there's such a thing called the calendar, and one day you're gonna hit midlife. And you're like, am I just forever gonna be the shadow of my parents? When will I have the chance to make my mark and find my place in the sun? Or make my mark because I know my place in the sun. What happens then if one or two or all of you decide to go and venture and do what you believe you're really meant to do in this planet? What happens now?
Well, I'm in midlife already. But anyway, I guess funny thing, about 3-4 years ago, my father announced that he thought it's probably best if he stays as chairman of the board and Carlo from operations would be president. But that was 4 years ago, and until now, it's very much involved. I guess for me, I let Carlo answer because I just wanted to, that part. In terms of thinking of leaving this, personally, I think I still want to, because I'm the accountant, I'm the sort of order and control, so I still want to fix, quote unquote, a lot of things that we need to be more efficient on. That part of the business, that's not Palawan Pawn Shop, I leave it to him, my husband, so he can explore it. So, and actually even Carlo, the other side of, I guess, the spouses, they have their own businesses also. That's not part of Palawan Pawn Shop. Me, I guess it's the reverse. If there was no Palawan Pawn Shop, I would still be in my corporate career. I never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur, so I'm reading more of it. That probably if there's the revenue generating side of the business, I'm the organization side of the business. I think that's my role, and I know it's clear to me that's what I want to do. So Carlo, if you.
Carlo, would you ever leave? My question directly was really a short answer, no? What if the business of your spouse requires you or motivates you or inspires you to go there and help grow that business because it's hers and she's your wife and those are your kids and you're getting older. You want to grow that. What now?
First, I'll answer the first part. I don't think I'll leave actually. Yes. inside the company, inside the business, actually, I think I'm the most similar to our father, in the sense that on the business side, in the sense that some of my siblings do not like the small talk with our people. I love that. I always go around, talk to them. Actually, sometimes I surprise them that I actually know their names, the names of their kids and stuff. So among all of us, maybe I'm the one most like. Not really. I mean, I'm all in. So to answer that part.
Part of the cult.
Yeah, I'm part of the cult.
You'll be daddy part 2.
Not really, not baby. But and then you had the question about the legacy or the completely under the.
What I meant was if your wife has a business and your kids are getting older, so then you're gonna be the mom and pop, and they're gonna be the you. So you're needed there. I don't know if you have such a situation, but
Well, in a way, yes. She'll always say that, oh, how come you never spend time? Yeah, I do. I go there once a week. But, I mean, to be honest, I haven't given it much thought, but what I tell my wife is that there's a lot of things that needs to be fixed still in the business. And of course, the scale of the family business is much bigger than our own sideline. So, which is actually not at all connected to the business. I mean, although we don't have our constitution yet because we've been working on it for like 100 years already. No, I mean, I think 3 or 4 years. It's still a work in progress. But I think it will be part of the constitution that our individual businesses should not in any way be connected to the family business. But of course, there will probably be a time when I have to balance, but I don't think I'll ever leave the company as long as the company is in their possession. But we're exploring actually many possibilities. Right now, I can say that we're exploring the possibility of having a strategic partner to bring in expertise and to expedite the professionalization and good corporate governance. So when that happens, I guess some of us, those who would want to pursue other things, can just be stakeholders and not really to be directly involved with the decision making and running the business.
Hello, good morning. Well, actually, I think your question is more appropriate to us three than the other two, because actually we're the ones. It's a reality, of course, and you mentioned before being under the shadow of our parents, and being us, the youngest, under the shadow of our elder siblings.
Yes.
It's happened to us in school. Of course, growing up, we went to the same schools. You get compared with your siblings, with your brother, with your sisters, and I think it's a reality, and it's natural for us to feel that way. But right now, honestly, we're all into this, but we recognize that one of us may pursue other careers in the future, and I can answer with most certainty that our kids, at least most of our kids, right now, all of us have kids already. Our kids maybe probably wouldn't want to join the family business. They want to pursue their own careers, and of course, we'd be happy to support them. But there are steps. We were doing steps to have to give us, that freedom, or that freedom of deciding if you think what's best for you. And so yes, it's a reality, and it's not a secret amongst us. We talk about it. We've been discussing it for the last two years, I think.
Yeah, I'd just like to add.
Yes.
In one of our mentoring sessions, we were told that for a single company, like Palawan Express Group, there's 5 of you there. Some would say it's too much, and actually, it made me wonder why we got invited. Are we unique that we're working for a single company and we're 5? Actually, with all the things, the projects, big tickets that we'd like to implement the soonest, 5 is not enough. The 5 of us right now are having our hands full, and for sure, not in the next 5 years we'll have our hands empty of all this work. And we were trying to tease our parents that you just had 5 kids, we're not enough. So anyway, well, as for my case, because I have a lot of initiatives going on for my group with HR, I don't think I'll be leaving in the next 5 years. Same with my sister Lillian. We'd like to make systems work for the organization. So I'm also part of that organization side more than the business side. So for my case, that's what I stand for now. I'll be doing fixing things or organization side. Yeah, and I'm not gonna leave in the next 5 years.
So just a time check, it's already 10 o'clock. They're willing to stay up to 10:30. If you're willing to stay, you can stay. We don't mind if you have to leave. So there are still some questions at the back.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to congratulate the mother for raising 5 good children. 5 children with 5 different personalities. So here is my question. I'm a mother with 3 children in a family corporation. My question is, how do you manage emotions during family meetings? It's different if you have meetings with your business partners or the other non-family officers, but within yourselves, how do you manage emotions? Sure, there are different levels of expressing our opinion. So how do you do it, and how do you arrive at a common goal?
Hi, good morning po. Well, as we mentioned, also, thank you, we have to thank you for congratulating our mother. And yes, we agree also. As mentioned earlier, we were raised to be very close to each other. And one of our brothers-in-law mentioned that in Tagalog, hinahanap nyo talaga ang isa't isa. So, we really want to spend time. I don't know actually why, but we don't, it's always like we're trying to look for activities that we want to do together. So, I think from the start, it's good that for us also, for parents, you train your children to be for each other, to be with each other, so that even when they grow older, even big conflicts is possible to amend, to be mended. And for our emotions, I think because it's also nanay. Nanay doesn't really tolerate, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't tolerate fights. And if you fight, or if we fight, the parents don't take sides. So I know they know also that one is the right one, or the one is the other should say sorry, but they just force us to, you talk to each other and then solve it yourselves. They don't like saying, oh, you should say sorry, or you are the wrong one here, so you should say sorry. They don't do that. They just give us time to talk to each other. So I think that really helps.
I'll try to answer the emotions part. Well, I mean, I can say that most of the time we're quite good on keeping our emotions in check, especially when it comes to the business or business meetings. But of course, there will be times when I guess emotions get the best of you. The good thing is that I guess, yeah, they know that sometimes.
Because we already know each other's character. So
yeah, the thing is, like, if it happens, then I guess some time to cool off, and then as we always see each other, sometimes, as mentioned earlier, sometimes too much. So there's so many opportunities to, I guess, apologize or compromise. So yeah, there's no golden rule, but we do try to keep emotions in check, be objective, even if sometimes you really can see that Ate is not really happy with how the meeting is going. She's not, for example, this particular thing, she's not getting her way, so, but you can see that, oh, she's not really happy, but she's keeping her emotions in check. She's good.
But of course, there were times that there were, voices were raised, and then, especially, but after that, yeah. After an incident where voices were raised, there was an argument, and then after a while, you just let that person vent, and then that's it. It's okay. There's probably because it's well ingrained. There's this mutual respect, trust. There's been communication, and because we're really, I guess, attached to each other, sort of. You call it that. Clingy. So.
Well, it's true. Each of us have different personalities, and I might add, each of us have strong, actually, personalities, and we're very opinionated. And during meetings, it happens, the clashing of opinions, raising their voices to prove a point. And I just like to share how I end up as the youngest. You really have to follow the family dynamics. And it's a reality that being the youngest, you actually need to listen to your elders. I don't admit that I'm good at that, especially when it comes to following my mother. But I just like to give credit to her, because all of us, when we have something to share, especially when it comes to clash of opinion with the father, all of us go to our nanay to vent out, and it sometimes takes so much of our energy and time, and sometimes you're bad children then when it comes to that. But honestly, you just have to accept your role as being the youngest. You should, you should, pay respect to the elders. It's a reality even for families, non-Filipino families. Sometimes they share with me jokes, and they're very excited to share it. There are jokes that I've heard of before, but to give them the pleasure to share the joke, I just burst out laughing so much, and I said, "Oh, that's good." So those are the things. Those are the kind of things that you need to accept, to compromise. So, yes.
Hi, good morning, John Diego. Jay asked a question while I remember in the same corporation. Two questions. One, I assume in the discussion that you guys had that none of your spouses are connected to the business. Is that an unwritten policy? It is. So it was decided very early on that this is purely for immediate family members. Second question would be, you had also mentioned that most of you guys you're very close to each other. Was that natural even before coming into the business, or were you all really close even outside?
Yes, actually, even before all of us joined the business. When we were kids, probably not as much because I'm 12 years older than Bobby. So I was already in college here in Manila when he was starting grade school. So it's like two batches. So Carl and I, of course, with young kids, we would also fight a lot. And then, but I remember the transition where we became, I guess, closer when he studied here, high school, and then he would come home in Palawan. So I think that started money. And then the three of them, it's like 2 years apart. So they grew up together in Palawan. It's like just three. It's like many of the families in Palawan actually thought there were only 3 kids because of the 3 of them. The 2 of us were already here. And then when they started coming to Manila to study, I think that's the time when we all of 5 of us, I guess grown up already, spent time in our house. When we were in Manila, when I started college, both Carl and I, we didn't have a house in Manila yet. So we were at dormitories. But we had a house. I was about to graduate in college. And then that house, it's really where we started sort of really we spent time together, we lived together in a single physical house. And that's when it started. So we would eat on weekends, up to a point where there was the time we're working, they're studying, so we would eat out weekends. We had a favorite restaurant at that time. When almost every weekend we would eat there to a point where Corina cried because she didn't want to eat there anymore. So there. And so to answer your question, before all of us joined, we were already close. Because prior to that, it's really, those dinners, and traffic wasn't so bad at that time. So even if I was working at BGC, Lisa Lu coming from Pampanga, the rest of them coming from Quezon City, we would have dinner in BGC and they would go home. Now you don't do that anymore because traffic would take you hours. So there's that connection.
So there was really an effort to try to get the guys, everybody together.
Yes.
Yeah, actually it was very convenient because we were in one house. We were housed in a single house back then. But right now we make it an effort, or we deliberately have that lunch and snacks together, especially when Kuya arrives from the province.
Because Carl is based in Palawan. There's a person based in Manila. So whenever he's here, so we would also spend time.
Hello. My parents actually own a small financing company, so which I think is very similar to your company or your business. They actually have around 5 branches. Each branch is actually run by a family member, and of course, there's that vision also that we want to have 1,000 branches, but we're running out of family members. So what's your advice to actually how can we further grow? So that's one of our major dilemma, running out of family members to run the branch.
We know of partners also who with different groups per family member. They've grown, but